Hello to our listeners out there. My name is Nikki, and I'm excited to be back with Aaron and our very special guest, Rob Ruth, who is president at the Bob Ruth Ford. Thank you so much for being with us, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, on our last episode, we kind of talked about the dealership pre and post COVID, and we spoke about how this will really lead to and kind of speed up the digital transformation of the industry. It kind of comes undeniable at this point. We spoke about how our dealerships really are our essential business. Aaron was speaking before our chat that you've been vocal on social media about speaking out about the regulations that were kind of put in place for your business. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience through this pandemic?
Sure. So right when the virus became an issue, we made some decisions here. There was a lot that we could do virtually with our customers. There was a lot that we could do digitally. And if we go back to March, when the government shut us down, we had already kind of shut ourselves down from having, people come in our showroom, et cetera, et cetera. And then we were labeled non-essential in sales, which, car sales, there's an argument there, but we were also told that if you could do business virtually, you can continue to do it. But our government would not let us do that. And then some of our competitors, big competitors were able to come into our market, and they were selling cars. So it was a very frustrating situation. We certainly learned a lot, and we've, evolved in a short period of time, even as a small business.
So, Rob, just wondering too, if we could back up a little bit before that. You talked about, being able and looking at going digital, but what was the mindset, before COVID was a thing? I mean, we've had previous discussions with previous guests and myself throughout the industry, and it seems like there's been a talk about becoming more of a digital type of an industry, but it's always been talk. So I'm just curious what your thoughts were, before COVID. What was the approach for Bob Ruth Ford? You guys starting to look at that, and did this accelerate it, or
Yes,
dive into that?
I mean, it was obvious that our customers have changed. This has been going on, it's been a slow, gradual change for many years, but they don't want to do business the way that car dealers have been doing business forever. And it was obvious that we needed to adjust, and the customers were not going to adjust. So what does that mean? We found that almost 80% of our customers were contacting us either virtually, through the web, or phone calls prior to actually coming to our dealership. So your lot traffic just started, gradually decreasing. So we knew we needed to change. So yes, we were in the process of it. And I mean, I think we're still in the process of it, but we need to adapt our own business practices to the customer, the way that they're going to do business. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so, obviously, and then, we hit the whole COVID lockdown thing. And again, it was on a kind of a state by state basis. I know PA, being somewhat local myself here, the essential versus non-essential decisions were somewhat questioned. And then I know you've worked with, and I think we're lobbying pretty heavily to get that adjusted. So can you tell us about some of the efforts that you took to try to make sure that it was recognized how essential the vehicles are, right, to our livelihoods, and to even essential workers like the police and EMT workers and hospital workers and such?
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue that your mode of transportation isn't essential. What other modes do we have if we take away our cars? As of now, there's not really any other mode of transportation. So you want to talk about a lockdown, when you take away people's cars or they can't get where they need to be, I don't see how there's even an argument whether your car is essential. And then they would, our business, they said, okay, well, servicing your car is essential, but we had doctors, we had police officers that had totaled their cars, or they didn't want to put the money into their old car. They wanted to get a new car because of a necessity, but our government said that they couldn't, which was very frustrating. So then, we were losing business to neighboring states. Our business is located about 30 miles from Maryland. So our customer base is going to other states, and they're just shutting down businesses here, which I guess from a personal standpoint, I never realized how much our state governments have control and how it's different from state to state to state. I always just okay, I'm an American living in Pennsylvania. It's almost, hey, I'm a Pennsylvanian, and I follow the rules of Pennsylvania, which don't apply 30 miles south of here.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm sure it was extremely frustrating. So, the can you tell us just, and I don't want to get into too deep on the politics part of it, but I know you were lobbying. Did you get together a consortium of other dealers? Was it across states? Like who all was involved in helping change the mindset here in Pennsylvania?
I think it was just, we had a lot of movement on social media and there was just pressure. We just tried to apply pressure to our government that this is not right. And, you know, everybody makes mistakes, but they needed to own up to their mistakes and at least give us some movement. So we did get the law passed that we could sell online, which is, and it continues to broaden past that with, as the virus situation changes. But it wasn't necessarily a lobby that I don't want to be a politician. I mean, I talked to more politicians in the last couple of months than I have, in my entire life. That's not what I want to do. I'm a business owner. There's people that are employed here that depend on, this company to provide for their families and their livelihoods. And we have customers that depend on us. I mean, that was who I was fighting for.
Sure, absolutely. So, in moving to online, I mean, I'm assuming that was, for the lack of better words, it was somewhat patchworked in the beginning, trying to figure out how to adjust the sales process online and to full delivery. Did you, was it completely online, the financing, the F&I piece? Did it go, then you delivered the vehicles? Like, how did you handle being compliant, I guess?
So it wasn't that difficult. We just put car deals together with people, kind of in a situation like this. We could do Zoom calls, we could do Skype calls, we could FaceTime. We would agree to terms. We would, get all the information that we needed from the consumer. And then once we agreed to everything, we would get paperwork ready and curbside pickup. They sign paperwork in 10, 15 minutes and they leave with their car. It's actually rather simple. It's not as complex as I think dealerships want to make it. We had a business development center in place prior to COVID. So we were used to talking to people and negotiating deals and putting these things together. That coming to the dealership was just a very small aspect of the whole sales process.
And so from that point moving forward, then, I mean, how do you see not only yourself in terms of your business, but I mean, in general, I mean, the auto industry, the dealership industry, what do you see? Do you see this as something that's going to stick, or will we get back to a different norm? What do you think the future is going to be?
I don't think that consumer behavior is going to go completely backwards. I think we've all learned a lot through this. And I think people don't have the patience to go to a business model that's broken, come to a dealership and spend 3-4 hours and wait and wait and wait. They don't want to do that. I don't want to do that when I buy something. I wouldn't expect, our customers to want to do that type of process. So anything that we can do to be more efficient, to save people time, less haggle back and forth, and make it a positive experience for them. I would assume some dealers don't evolve, and I think there's going to be some that just don't make it if they don't. But I think we're still in a little bit of a transition period as well.
Right, and we covered this on a previous podcast with a guest, and his take is, he's been in the business for many years as a GM for dealerships, but his take is that there's going to be a slow transition. So you're going to get some of those people who want to be obviously on site 2, 3, 4 hours and test drive 5, 6, 7 cars, and then you have others who know what they want, make a couple of clicks and want to go, and then everywhere in between. I mean, you see that as the same?
I do. And then I think dealers have a choice. They can either go one of two ways. They can just try to cater to one of those demographics, or they can try to cater to both demographics. That's the decisions we have to make right now.
Sure.
I think it's not just from, I think that we have to make it a better working environment for the people that work here. We need to attract, younger people into the auto industry. And, we have to look at some of the, the work environment that has been in the auto industry that hasn't been appealing to a lot of people. So we need to change not just what we're doing for our customers, but also for our employees as well.
You bring up a good topic there too, something we really haven't spent time on, but every industry is a little different in terms of how they attract upcoming talent, right? So, obviously, tech is where all the kids kind of want to go because it's new, it's exciting. Coming from myself from the insurance industry, right? Try to get people to become underwriters, right?
Right.
It's not the sexy thing that these kids want to do. So, from your perspective in the dealership and in the auto space, how do you guys attract good young talent to come in and get them to train them, but also let them bring in new ideas? What's your approach to that?
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at what you're setting up. I don't think, I've been in the car business my whole life. I actually lived at this dealership when I was 6 years old. My father bought the store. Him and I had an apartment above it. And there's no way that people would want today to get into the car business the way that I was brought up into it 25 years ago. Okay. Which was, hey, you got to work 12, 15 hours a day and you need to do it 6 days a week. And that's your life. And you're not going to have any type of life outside of it. That has to change, or we're not going to attract younger people into it because they don't want to do that. Okay.
Right.
And by the way, you don't get paid unless you actually sell something. They don't want to do
Yeah.
that. Okay. Now I like I was attracted to the opportunities in the business that, hey, I could get paid more if I did more. And I think that even younger people like that as well. So you have to figure out a performance-based, compensation plans for people, but have it a little bit evolved past just, hey, you got to be here 15 hours a day. You got to be here 6 days a week. And, you don't get anything if you don't sell anything. So that's where we went wrong. We didn't train people. We didn't have a career path for them. It was just, sink or swim.
Right. Well, and being a self-proclaimed car guy on my from myself, cars excite me. I enjoy looking at the designs, the styling, the new technology that's coming out. But it doesn't seem like it's becoming less of a I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but a lot of the up and coming kids just aren't car people, right? It's just a mode of transportation for them. They don't have a love of the vehicle itself and the design and styling that goes into it. Do you see kind of that passion dying out, and that also being a reason why maybe younger people don't get into the industry?
I would agree with that. I think that younger people, a car is just transportation for the most part. Other than that, there's some sports cars and so forth that they're really excited about. But other than that, it's just, hey, get me from point A to point B, do it fast, and that's what it is. They don't fall in love with their cars as much as maybe generations prior to them did.
Yeah, I've got two boys and they're polar opposites. One is all cars, and the other one, as I said, is could care less if it was a Chevette or whether it was a Vet. So,
Right.
it's hard for me to comprehend, but I imagine that's going to be, up and coming. It's almost like you're going to be selling not a vehicle, but just transportation, right? It's a different idea. It's a different type of sale to a different market. So you're not going to be selling the sexy, speedy lines, the wide tires, the great looking, magnesium wheels and everything else that's going on. It's just going to be like, yeah, this is the most reliable thing to get you to and from, and it's the most environmentally safe.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I think they still like, the lines and so forth, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as it was to an older generation.
Right.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that for sure. My car is get me to point A and point B. And I've got family members that have been in the dealership industry. Like my uncle was in it. My grandfather was, actually both uncles. And then my dad was kind of like you. Like he would spend summers working on my grandfather's dealership and then go up to the office or apartment upstairs and take a nap during lunch and then go back at it. So I definitely can understand and empathize and feel for that, because dealerships, 6 days a week, it's more than 12 hours a day. Like it's a toll. And I think you're right that that's shifting. I think like you were saying before, the consumers are shifting for their buying experience. But I also think as new generations are coming up, we're putting a lot on like work-life balance and everything like that. So I thought that was a really interesting point that you had.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been happening over time, but it needs to continue to evolve. I mean, we don't need to be here 80 hours a week. We can be more efficient if we work smarter and not harder. I think that we can continue to advance, and that's always been my my passion since I got in this full time in 2000 was like, okay, this is broken. We need to fix it. You know, so
Totally.
what can we do to change those old habits? And the more we do it, the more successful we become. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. You talked about social media kind of was huge during this and talking to politicians and getting education out there about updating like the virtual sales process and everything like that. I noticed your YouTube, you've literally went through the process with different employees kind of going over, here's the tent that you'll sign. You're going to sign papers, still 10, 15 minutes in here. We'll Skype with you to do this, this, and this. Do you think that YouTube and social media is going to play a bigger role moving forward, like post COVID and all that? I mean, we talked about digital transformation in the industry kind of being undeniable. Do you think social media is kind of tied with that?
100%. I think social media is the new traditional media. Years ago, dealerships would advertise on newspapers, radio, television, and I think today's younger generation are spending their time more on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever other social media platforms they have. So I think as a business, we need to communicate with people, and I think even older generations are adapting to those things as well. So I don't think we have a choice. You have to do it.
Totally.
Well, and that's, when you think about it, you become more of a digital marketing business, right? Because of using all those. So, potentially that's where you attract that younger crowd who can understand what the up and coming market looks like, what the younger generation, how they want to engage and where they want to engage. So, you end up maybe with less brick and mortar, like you said, and less actual sales on site, and they become more of digital sales, marketing sales.
I totally agree to that. I've watched dealerships invest their money into their facility and their, elaborate showrooms, and, the people that are showing up are getting less and less. And, we've taken more of an approach to invest in people and processes and, efficiencies, and operationally, we've kind of spent our money there, which I think has paid us bigger dividends than having a big shiny building to come to and an elaborate showroom. We don't have that here, and we have a very large market share in our local area, and I believe my competition can't understand how, but that's what we've been doing.
And actually, that was a question I was going to have is, what is your reach right now? I mean, obviously you've got your direct market in the specific area, but with digital, you can sell anywhere. So, have you been reaching across state lines, across the country? Like what's kind of the reach that you've seen since you've gone digital?
I mean, we're consistently selling in way outside of our market area. I mean, that's been for years now through digital presence. I think yesterday we did a deal in Kansas City. I mean, we're constantly in states that are not, even adjacent to ours. And I think it depends on the car. That if we would, we sell a lot of, your domestics, your everyday transportation. I think the more special a vehicle, the further the reach will be, that people will travel for it.
Sure. So when the essential, when that was going on with PA, where you were shut down, were you able to sell outside of your market? Were you able to sell into Maryland or other states?
We were not.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
We were shut down longer than any other state, like completely from selling inventory. So, and then as a dealership, so we had $6 million in used car inventory that, took a major depreciation hit initially, and then we weren't even allowed to sell it. So it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And our competition was, so people don't understand the losses that caused our businesses, because it's just not showcased.
Right. So what about the bump? I mean, once you guys, once the government decided it was essential, I mean, did you see an uptick? I mean, do you see things coming back to normal in terms of sales volumes for the dealers?
I mean, at the moment we are slammed. We can't keep up with the opportunities in front of us. So we're expanding rapidly, and we're actually doing it with less people. We're more efficient, and we've changed our whole sales organization. It's just a completely different business model than it was 3 months ago, but we're accomplishing more. So I think that we are gaining market share quickly. It's the right move.
Right, absolutely. Okay.
There's some pent-up demand in the short run, but I think overall, I think the more that we can focus on, just like I said, that consumer experience and employee experience, if we can win those two things, our dealerships will continue to survive. If we don't, I think something about.
So, Rob, it seems like, I mean, you've obviously kind of been ahead of, others in your industry going digital. Where do where's the utopia? I mean, in your mind, what would be the ultimate experience for the consumer right now? What would you like to be able to set up, say, in the next 5 years, or even shorter term, 2 years or 3 years?
We have to do whatever we can to be fully transparent and extremely efficient. People's lack of patience due to technology, have to accept that. Okay, we're not comparing ourselves to other dealerships. We're comparing ourselves to Amazon. We're comparing ourselves to other industries that have really evolved. And if we don't get to that point, I don't foresee dealerships existing that don't evolve.
I mean, when it comes to the dealership, right? I mean, there's different aspects to it. There's the inventory, there's the sales piece of it, there's then the financing piece of it, and then there's the service side. I mean, so what do you see as the biggest hurdle in terms of moving one department to a more efficient platform? Which one might be the biggest drag?
I think they're all, there's a lot of transition that needs to happen. I don't think that there's one, and I don't think that you can break that business up, sales versus service. I think it just needs to be your company, and everything you do has to, revolve around being efficient, being fast, offering, transparency and that consumer experience, whether it's sales, whether it's finance, whether it's service. We got to figure out a way that we can, deliver that product.
Sure. So while we wrap up here and stuff, I'm just, I definitely want to give a few minutes for you to kind of tell us a little bit more specifically about your dealership. I mean, the story about you living in the apartment above from the age of 6 up is probably very unique for most owners. Do you count all your experience from 6 moving forward as part of your resume?
I know that I wouldn't want many people to have to live at a car dealership at the age of 6 and grow up with car salesmen and mechanics, etc. But it taught me a lot. I have a love for our industry. I have a love for just the challenge of the evolution of the car dealership. I want to see it continue. So, there's a lot of just a personal thing for me to continue to make this work, a legacy. But yeah, it's very unique, Aaron.
Yeah, for sure. So are you, again, just regarding your dealership in general, so how many rooftops? Is it the single rooftop? Do you
It's
have
a single rooftop at this point. So my father and I were partners for 17 years. He passed away about 2.5 years ago. So I recently, bought out the company from his estate. There's just been a lot of challenges just for our company in the last couple of years, but we've really moved forward through them. So they were just little hurdles and road bumps, and we're gonna continue driving forward. I mean, I'm excited about what's to come. I think that COVID, this whole thing is a blessing in disguise for us.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, it's going to force the transformation that everybody's talked about for a lot of time,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep.
The industry's been static for 50 years, so the change is here. I think it's imminent, and it's going to have to happen swiftly, or as you said, it's sink or swim at this point in terms of dealerships.
I mean, we're in a pretty good position with that. So I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's just, it's something that's going to be a good thing for everybody. I've already seen the benefits to, people are coming to pick up their car from us and they're in and out of here in 20 minutes. So that's revolutionary. Our employees are working less hours. That we're working as a group. they're seeing a bigger what it entails to operate the whole business. So they're really we're breaking down internal walls, which all these things needed to happen. So I really like the position we're in. I think it's going to be a game changer, and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've set your organization up for success, and you're, like you said, you're approaching it future facing rather than just trying to maintain the status quo. So I think that's great. Definitely wish you and all the employees a lot of luck and much growth in the coming years. So I want to thank you again for the time. Like I said, we enjoy getting information out, letting people know what's going on in the industry, what some people's perspectives and thoughts are. And, I think everything that we've talked about today is relevant and hopefully helpful to some others out in the industry.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it's helpful to someone. And, I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and, we'll continue that relationship.
That sounds great. All right. You have a great day, Rob. We'll talk to you soon.